been a while since I've covered other teams. I love just football in general. I've been wanting to cover other teams. And I think this week, with the lead up to my Dolphins squaring off against the Bills, it's a perfect time to get back to the Bills coverage. I'm going to add other teams in, but I'm going to try to have steady coverage of the Bills again and other teams along with my Dolphins. So, going to dig into which was a really fun game to watch, surprising game in a lot of ways. Bills defeat of Kansas City, 28-21. I'm not going to go over the whole game because I feel like it's a girl I broke up with, and then I got back. I feel a little out of place. I don't know the team where it's fully at. I've been watching some of the games, but it's different when you're studying the team. So I studied a lot of the Bills game this week, and I applied it to what I had seen in the past. So I'm going to cover the offense of the Bills, what they did conceptually through a whole host of analytics to show how this framework that the Bills are setting up around Allen, they've been doing it for 2.5 years, it's really in the best place. It is maturing. You definitely want a stud exterior receiver to kind of set the leverage more for the Bills. But they're doing some great stuff. And the way KC responded on offense and how they played him on defense is what I'm going to dig into here. Can my Dolphins beat you this week? Yeah, why not? But we'll see. So let's get into this game and set the table for the matchups that I'm going to do probably tomorrow between these two teams. So anyway, guys, please like, subscribe, comment, and view. All that stuff keeps Curtis in the biz. There's a hype button. If you think I've earned it, please hit that and the rest of the gizmos and things that keep Curtis in the biz, all right? So, Bills fans, you're having a very good season. My Dolphins, not so much, but we're hoping to pull it together next year. So this game was really, really interesting. As not really studying the team for a while, a lot of the concepts that I had envisioned for Allen as the best case scenario to be wrapped around him seems to really be fleshed out. Now, there was weaknesses the last 2 weeks. They're coming off 2 defeats. I got to dig into the tape on the whys, but this was a masterclass. Clearly, Allen is a superhero. He pulled off some amazing plays, but it was more than that because Allen's always been pretty much amazing since his second season or so, and he's had inconsistencies. But Brady, what he's doing here, I don't think Brady's a genius. I think he's smart to put Allen in the right offense that fits the current NFL cycle, which is pass balance, running that football, especially inside, and it really sets up a lot, keeping the defense off the field where it's got some woes, although Hairston was a big piece added in this game, and really it sets the consistency for the whole team through the course of a game and a season. So one of the first things I want to look at is obviously Cook. I liked Cook when he was drafted, but there was no way that I'd expect this guy to be doing what he's doing. And my man Tommy at Mafia Sports Report, who I'm on with AFC Shakedown on Saturday, had been saying for a while, you guys needed that exterior receiver. And he also said, I like Cook, but I didn't expect this. And I would have to say that I was in his camp. Cook has proven to be probably the best back in the league right now. And I say that because while the Bills' offensive line's good, it's not as good as Taylor has with the Colts. And his ability, Cook that is, to stay healthy and to accelerate and to make full gap jump cuts and just to be so patient and explode and to attack from the interior to the exterior. He's not a big guy. It's impressive. This guy is just an unbelievable piece to tie into Allen. He clearly drives this offense now. It's not to take away from Allen, But when you've got a back this good and a quarterback that good, and the teams are focusing on the back as much as that a quarterback of that level, it really makes things difficult. Now, here's the rush total. I've talked for a while, maybe not to you Bills fans, but to some of the Dolphins fans. I've been banging on the table. If you look at the top 10 rush attempt teams, 90% of them don't have a losing record. 10% do. So it's a 90% chance that you've set yourself up for success. And then conversely, if you're at the bottom 10 rush attempts, you've only got 10% chance to have a winning record. Might have changed this week. This was last week's numbers. And so Allen for a while was just a major, huge portion of your run attack. And while it looked good in his stats, it was not conducive. Allen did have a big run or two this week, but this is really about the stable, led by Cook, driving this run attack. And you can see here in this image, 4-point tension is the thing I've talked about. That means defenses are concerned about the deep, they're concerned about the boundaries, and they're concerned about the line of scrimmage on the interior. And the balance here, you could see 35 attempts, 140 yards, 4 yards per carry, which is not stellar, but when you pair it with that amount of attempts, 3 touchdowns in a run game, although Allen handed 2 of those. But the big deal here is you could see the 4-point yards per attempt, but Cook and the rest of the backs aiding 2.26. So a 1.8 yards before contact by this offensive line is not super duper, but when you factor in that KC likes to blitz, they like to get close to the line of scrimmage, and they're pretty darn talented up front, this was a solid performance by the O-line. And a very good performance by the backs. Now, the big point to this is you had 35 attempts, 140 yards, but the longest was 17. And that is death by 1,000 cuts. That is pounding away at the bodies of the defense of Kansas City and stealing their will, which is critical. Now, you could see to the rush attempts, you see the purple boxes. You guys attacked the exterior and had very good success there. But when you get into from the tackle box, you've had 2 on the exterior at left tackle. And then underneath that, you see right tackle 5. You attack that area. But if you look in between in that blue box, you had 9, 10 attempts, almost 30% in the A and B gap. And from my evaluation, that's critical. Now, it wasn't hugely successful. There was some success there. If you go back to the game, yeah, there was some stops, but also some big runs, some runs that went inside and were clogged and they were bounced outside. But all across this board, for as far as the running back attack, there's tension on the boundaries and the exterior at every hole, and this is a huge piece of the puzzle why the Bills won. Now, get a little bit here into a next graphic. This is going to be Josh Allen, his season numbers as far as concepts and how he worked in those concepts, and then versus the Chiefs, and it's pretty darn impressive how he was able to achieve this. But clearly the marriage between him and this run game played a massive part. And in converse, after I'm done with this, I'll show you Mahomes' framework and concepts and run game, and you'll see the contrast, how one quarterback really was set up for more success and the other one not so much. But on the left is the season averages. You see in the orange box, kept clean 63%, yards per attempt 9.0. But this week versus the Chiefs, 74%. That's 6.6% more kept clean. And then the yards per attempt were 10.9. Under pressure, Allen's been under pressure 32.7%. He gets blitzed a lot, so it's kind of understandable. This week, only 26.7. So that's another drop, 7% under pressure. And you can see the 6.1 yards per attempt for the regular season, it ballooned to 9. So he was working, doing magic on his own, but some of that was play action too. There was some very successful play action plays, getting pretty much all the tight ends involved. Now, not blitz, 65%. Not blitz 66, so it was a little bit less blitz percentage. You can see below that when blitz 34.2, this week 33.3, so it dropped about 8%, still very high, but you can see even when blitzed, it went up from 8 yards per carry for the season to 8.7, a slight tick up on the blitz. Now all plays, 8.2 yards per attempt for the season, 10.5 for this game. Big plays, really. The tacking of the edges with the screens and the runs, the attacks of the interior really set up a lot of these deep plays, and KC couldn't handle it. Now go down to play concepts, and you'll see that Brady did some smart stuff. He really took advantage of the aggressive nature of KC. Play actions, 27.9% on the season, bumped up a little bit to 30%. But because of this high play blitz rate, you can see the screens, normally 13%. They double the 26.7. And when you get blitzed, it's the screen takes advantage of it. Now, the yards per attempt was 6.4. They dropped to 4.0. But when you go back and look, there were some big plays made on screens. There were some stops, but this was a way for Brady to, in the concept phase of the game, to put Allen in a great position for success. You could see the pressure rate, it dropped a little bit. They were able to pick up this blitz and pick it up long enough with either Allen on the move or just having a clean pocket and then hitting deep. And that's what legitimate play action does for you. It's different when you run play actions and nobody buys in. They're all dropping. And when you look at this blitz rate and the pressure picked up, Allen made a lot of these big plays on the blitz and in a thin secondary. This was a perfect setup and framework for the great Josh Allen to have a great day. Now, looking at this here, you can see from what I've seen, I haven't studied every week, but I constantly see there's not really a lot of deep plays being made. A lot of the stuff is short and medium, but this week, 118.8 NFL rating, 1 for 1, over 20 in the middle. 2 for 2, 158.3 for 50 yards to the right. These plays made a big difference in the game. But if you go to the purple box, look at how much Brady set up that the KC had to focus. 8 behind the line of scrimmage plays, in the middle, 2 to the right, a series of attacks across the 1 to 10. But all this stuff forced KC to stay focused, and the timely calls and the timely pass protection and plays of Allen allowed these bigger plays, like you could see 3 for 4 over the middle of 10 to 20 for 116, and the 1 for 1, which was one to the right with 112 quarterback rating. These were generated by 4-point tension, by the screens, by the play action, by the runs. So this really took advantage of KC. They were out of sorts. But when you watch the game, KC kind of came out with a similar game plan. But they got nervous going into that third quarter. They started getting a little cute and pulled off their run attack. And when you go back and you look, they only had 17 carries to 30 pass attempts. And so they were out of balance. Now, Mahomes was only blitzed 20.5% of the time, but the pressure rate was 46. They doubled it. So that means Mahomes was blitzed less, throwing into thicker secondaries, which is not conducive even for the great Mahomes. Play actions. Andy Reid was trying to get more guys in routes. He only had 17.9. His screen was 12.8, which you don't expect the screen rate to go higher with this low-level blitz. But I thought maybe he should have done more running inside to get more of that tension up, to call more play actions. But there were stalls, there were sacks. Bosa had a great game. There was foolish penalties. And in the end, maybe that was pulled from his hand. But however you slice it, this is not the framework for how things are set up in the modern NFL. And when you got two great quarterbacks and the framework is so in the opposition, you could see why Mahomes had one of his worst games of his career. Only 7.4 yards per attempt. Turnover-worthy plays, 2 under pressure. He struggled on that day because they were off schedule and because the Bills kind of understood what they were doing. Now, Hairsmith was able to cover. What's the guy, the streaky, the fast guy that you guys gave him the pick for, and that was a huge deal. But really, in the Bills managed a few key run stops, forcing Reed to get a little cutesy and kind of fall into the pass system. And so it really set you guys up. You held your water, pulled this game out, and I think what you got here is a complete team philosophically. It'll be very interesting to see how this defense can stay healthy. There's been so many injuries for you guys. I don't know how far it's going to go, but I know if this is the template that you've got, you're going to be highly consistent, going to be successful. It'll be interesting to see how you can wrestle the division from the Patriots, see if that happens, and then head into this postseason. But this is a portable offense, even if you're on the road in bad weather, unlike my Dolphins, sadly. So you guys are set up for a good season. A lot of stuff's going to go from here to there. I think there's potential. None of these other teams in the AFC are really that much of a juggernaut. So this could be a season where you get there. But clearly, I think you got to take the division from the Pats. I think if you don't take the division from the Pats, it's going to make it very difficult to get to that Super Bowl. But if you can wrestle it from them, KC's looking vulnerable. They're all the teams. The Broncos, Colts, I think, could be a tough team for you. But if I had to bank on Daniel Jones versus Allen in your house, let's say, I would definitely go Allen. Maybe in their house it could be different. But so this team is positioned for something very good, but it's based off following the NFL cycle of pass balance, running that football inside, being physical, and you guys are doing it. So it'll be interesting to follow your ride from here on out. I wanted to start the beginning of the season, but I just wasn't really healthy enough. I didn't have the energy, and covering my Dolphins took everything I have. But now they're pretty clear, where the direction is, and I'm healthier. So I'm going to get back to you guys, more coverage among other teams. It's just a lot more sanity when I'm not emotionally involved in my own team. So anyway, Bills fans, congrats. Hopefully we can join you there soon. Curtis saying, be well, go Fins. Curtis out. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.